Sweet Home, Where Evil Lives. Written and directed by Thomas Sieben. This is actually a German movie, and that is the English translation of this title. So, what's it all about? This is a haunted house movie of sorts, and its unique selling point is that it is a kind of single shot. It's one of these movies that is all one continuous shot. There's been a few examples of that. So it's a film that takes place in real time. So, you know, 5 minutes in the movie is 5 minutes of real life kind of thing. And the story focuses on this character called Maria, who is a heavily pregnant woman, and she has recently moved into this house that has belonged to her husband's family for generations, and they want to turn it into like a bed and breakfast. And one night, not long after they've kind of just moved in, the husband is at work and Maria is at home, and strange things start to happen. She starts to feel uneasy. She starts bleeding because she's obviously heavily pregnant, and there's various noises and flashing lights and stuff, and she finds like this secret room which has got some unsettling things on it, and there happens to be a spirit in this house that may be related to this kind of family, and that's kind of all I'll say in the plot right there. So let's talk about it. Now, this movie is double scary if you are a mother, I would suggest. How to describe it? It's kind of like It Follows meets The Conjuring with a kind of familial twist. So I think one of the benefits of this movie is the way that it is filmed, because it is like a floating camera, so to speak, that's constantly following Maria around. You really feel like you're in this character's shoes. Now, I'm not really, I wouldn't say having this kind of single shot situation is necessarily something that would especially attract me to a film. I think it's more a gimmick, if anything. But what I would say is you legitimately feel like you are the character, or you relate to the character, because you are just following her around in the mundane parts and the scary parts. You were just following this character around, and you're kind of thinking, what would you do in that kind of situation, and things like that. So I have to say, I actually think this movie maybe kind of changed my mind a little bit about it. And in this instance, I actually think it works in the movie's benefit. Because when I first got the screener for this, I thought, you know, single shot movie, big whoop. You know, we've seen that a few times before. I think it seems kind of pointless, but I have to say, this one has an effect on the story, because you kind of just feel like you're this character, or you relate to them so much. I thought it was well done. And there's some genuinely creepy moments in this movie, certainly in the first 2 acts, I would say. And maybe the whole film, but certainly in the first 2 acts of the movie. You know, it has that sort of creepy Conjuring guy sort of feel to it. I mean, it's not exactly a bloody film, it's not a gory film, but it is a creepy film, and I think it's very well done. There's a few jump scares, but I gotta say, I thought the creepiness factor here is extraordinarily well done. It really was a creepy film, and as they say, you know, we have this woman, she's heavily pregnant, you know, she's in pain, it affects her mobility. There's other aspects, and I have to say, I think if you are a mother, this movie will be more scary to you than it would be anyone else. And I still think this movie is scary for someone that clearly isn't a mother. So I thought that was well done. I thought the acting was solid. Now, it's a German language movie, and it's always a little bit difficult when you're watching a foreign language movie to really see if you know, the emotions and what you're reading with the dialogue is kind of what is, you know, translated on screen. But I was in it. You know, they had me with this, with the characters here. I thought for 95% of this movie, I thought the acting was just like super kind of realistic, and I was fully bought into the characters. We'll put the asterisks with that other 5% in just a minute. But yeah, I thought the acting was very good and believable, relatable kind of characters. VFX wise, it's not super heavy on VFX, but what we do have, I think, is very effective. And having this kind of, again, I'm going to come back to this kind of, this camera which is sort of, feels like it's like a satellite around Maria. It feels like organic almost. So you're kind of seeing, you're sort of seeing the world around it as Maria is, you know, existing in this world. And what the movie does is it slowly builds the kind of the levels of dread and the layers of how much danger the character of Maria is in. And it starts to kind of show you the dangers that she's in, although you don't quite know explicitly what's happening. You're leveling and thinking, something's not quite right here. There's maybe more things are afoot. We get a couple of other characters kind of turn up at the house, and you know, you're thinking, okay, there's something which is going on here, and it's kind of, it's hinting at there's some type of larger issue here, but again, you won't necessarily know what's going on. So I thought that was all good. You know, this house, it looks great. It's not like stupidly like over creepy. It's like a normal kind of house, but it works well. With this movie, it's like a large house with like a basement. They find this like hidden room and things like that. So I thought it worked well, and I will say a little something about the kind of the music and the kind of the score here. Understated, you know, not lots of kind of like overly dramatic music, and you're often left with the kind of the ambient sounds, which I think really works. But then when you just have these occasional little kind of musical, you know, overtures and kind of flurries that I think just build that tension and kind of works really well. And certainly a disturbing story. Not a graphically explicit story, but when you watch this movie as a whole, okay, it's creepy, it's disturbing. We have this force that seems to be following this Maria, hence it follows. I mean, it literally is a literal what I mean. But they have that kind of, you have that sort of haunted house feel of the Conjuring movies. Okay, so what does not work in this movie? This is going to be hard because the main issues I have with this movie are all in the third act, and it's all after the plot has been somewhat kind of revealed. So I'm really not going to be able to tell you anything in any detail here. Any minor issues before I get in, trying to kind of like get around that? There's a couple of things here where I think the character of Maria surely would have mentioned things. Kind of straight away we get her father-in-law turn up, and she seems to not bring up this kind of secret room like straight away and things, which I thought surely you would do. Minor, very minor issues, couple of things like that, where I feel, you know, surely you would do that a little differently, but you know, whatever. So then once the kind of the reveal happens, okay, I don't know if I fully bought it. To put it, if you watch this movie and you understand everything that's going on, there's surely a very easy decision that could have been made by people that are involved in this plot where certain things would just not have happened. It just doesn't make sense that people wouldn't have considered that. And there's also other things, again, I can't tell you what it is, but I was thinking, okay, so what if that had happened? And what if this situation had happened, which can happen to lots of people? I know, I'm being vague. Would that count? So I felt the movie's once the plot is revealed and we kind of understand the status quo, we understand people's roles in where they are in the plot, I think it didn't quite, I wasn't quite bought in quite as much. I still think it's a very effective movie, and I understand the plot, the way they've made it, and the where the plot wants to go and stuff. I don't think it was as successful as the build-up. Is the best way to describe it. You're probably thinking, that's like super vague, I don't know what you're talking about. I know. If I said any more, it would spoil the plot. I don't want to do that for you, because it is a very enjoyable movie. It is a scary movie without being an explicit gore fest or massively, on jump scares. It's a very good atmospheric movie with an interesting plot that I think falls down a little bit. Certain characters do things in this movie where I just think that seemed to have happened pretty quick. A character has taken an action seemingly without really giving it that much thought. It's quite a major action, and they've done it. I'm thinking, surely you wouldn't just make that rash decision. I don't know. Again, vague, I know. So, most of the issues I have this more plot based, and it's all to do with kind of like what happens in the movie. Sorry, can't be any more specific, otherwise I'll spoil the movie for you. I will say, I think this movie is worth seeing. I think this is a good movie, even I have issues with the plot and some of the way the characters, I think, are written, their reactions to things, maybe not quite buying it quite as much. Even the third act, I still enjoyed. I still enjoyed it, though it's not quite as clever as you think the movie's going to be. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I would recommend this movie, but be prepared to think, I don't quite buy that plot point, but whatever. 7 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Please leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.